Dopamine has 4 different pathways in the brain. Depending on which pathway is affected, it can lead to conditions like Parkinson's disease or depression. My conclusion is that we may need to pay more attention to and observe more closely these autonomic nervous system symptoms and neuropsychiatric symptoms. In the previous video, I talked about dopamine. In this video, we'll take a closer look based on anatomical knowledge at how dopamine, which I mentioned is both a neurotransmitter and a hormone, can lead to Parkinson's disease, the neuropsychiatric issues commonly associated with Parkinson's, and problems with the autonomic nervous system depending on its pathways. I'll also introduce research that supports my view and the claims of some experts that autonomic nervous system symptoms often appear before the symptoms of Parkinson's disease itself. Once you hear about the results of that research, I believe you'll find my opinion that some symptoms of autonomic dysfunction could serve as early indicators of Parkinson's disease quite reasonable. Furthermore, I hope that, as we treat Parkinson's disease, we can pay more attention to issues related to the autonomic nervous system and respond to them more proactively. Dopamine acts as both a neurotransmitter and a hormone in the central nervous system. As a neurotransmitter, dopamine is synthesized in various regions of the brain, including the substantia nigra and the ventral tegmental area, while as a hormone, it is mainly synthesized in the hypothalamus. I previously explained that Parkinson's disease is a disorder in which the dopaminergic neurons in the substantia nigra, located in the brainstem at the center of the brain, are destroyed, with motor dysfunction as the main symptom. Within the central nervous system, that is, inside the brain, dopamine follows 4 main pathways. One of these pathways runs from the substantia nigra to the basal ganglia. This pathway is involved in the development of Parkinson's disease, which is characterized by motor dysfunction. The other 2 main pathways go from the brainstem to the frontal lobe or the limbic system, and if problems occur in these pathways, a variety of psychiatric, neurological issues or cognitive impairments can arise. In other words, depending on which pathway of the neurotransmitter dopamine is affected, Parkinson's disease, with motor symptoms as the main feature, may develop or depression may occur instead. And because a problem in one pathway often leads to issues in neighboring pathways as well, Parkinson's disease and neuropsychiatric problems like depression frequently occur together. And among the 4 pathways, the last one is the pathway that goes to the hypothalamus. Since the hypothalamus is the control center of the autonomic nervous system, symptoms related to the autonomic nervous system also tend to appear together. Along with the 4 main dopamine pathways, I will also explain how Parkinson's disease progresses pathologically based on the research findings of a neuropathologist. There is a German neuropathologist named Braak. I believe he is still alive. He is well known for his research in which he pathologically analyzed donated brains to track how and through which pathways brain damage related to degenerative brain diseases like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's progresses and worsens. He analyzed the brains of about 170 people post-mortem to investigate in which regions of the brain the marker substances related to Parkinson's disease are found. The result of this investigation showed that the marker substances associated with Parkinson's disease do not appear sporadically in the brain, but rather spread sequentially along specific regions and pathways. But the surprising fact is that the marker substances of Parkinson's disease are not first found in the substantia nigra of the brain, which is known as the primary lesion of Parkinson's disease. It is reported that the Parkinson's disease marker substances were first discovered in an area near the hypothalamus, which is located in the brainstem below the substantia nigra and is responsible for the autonomic nervous system. Next, it is explained that the marker substances of Parkinson's disease appear in the areas responsible for the sense of smell and for emotions. Only after that do the Parkinson's disease marker substances spread to the substantia nigra, the motor center of the brain, and it is at this stage that patients begin to be diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. Based on these findings, Braak concluded that Parkinson's disease is already in progress and developing long before the motor neurons are damaged. By combining the previously mentioned dopamine pathway and Braak's conclusion, we can see that the progression of Parkinson's disease actually begins in the hypothalamus, which controls the autonomic nervous system, before the typical motor symptoms of Parkinson's disease, such as tremors, rigidity, bradykinesia, and postural instability, appear. It then spreads to the olfactory nerve area and the limbic system, which is responsible for emotions, and finally reaches the motor center of the basal ganglia. In other words, we can see that as some symptoms of the autonomic nervous system appear, along with a decline in the sense of smell and worsening depression, the disease progresses to motor dysfunctions such as tremors, rigidity, slowness of movement, and postural instability. In another sense, issues with the autonomic nervous system such as orthostatic hypotension, gastrointestinal motility disorders, constipation, urinary problems, and sexual dysfunction can serve as important clues that may predict Parkinson's disease 5 to 10 years in advance. I mentioned that the motor symptoms seen in Parkinson's disease only become relatively clear after about 60 to 80% of the dopaminergic neurons in the substantia nigra of the brain have been lost. For this reason, I hope you can understand through the previously mentioned dopamine pathway and Braak's research that certain autonomic nervous system issues or neuropsychiatric problems such as depression are too closely related to be considered simply as symptoms separate from Parkinson's disease. Especially if you have some symptoms that might suggest Parkinson's disease or a family history of Parkinson's, it is important to pay closer attention to these autonomic nervous system symptoms or neuropsychiatric symptoms and observe them more carefully. That is my conclusion. It may be necessary to do so. Please make sure to thoroughly review the content of today's video. I hope that this will be of some help in wisely and intelligently dealing with Parkinson's disease, should it ever unexpectedly affect you or someone around you.